Hey everybody, Danny Maud here. Thanks for joining us. This week, I'm going to give you 3 of my top tips for chipping far more consistently. I'm also going to discuss maybe some of the pitfalls I see with a lot of my clients, and maybe you're in the same bracket. Maybe you're hitting the ground a little bit behind the ball, or have that horrible thin shot, the one that rolls on the ground and goes too far. We're going to discuss some of the reasons why that's happening. So my very first tip is around setup. What do you need to do in the setup to increase the likelihood that you're going to strike it every time? The first thing is to realize that the setup is very different to the way you set up to a normal shot. With a normal shot, we want to generate power. So the shaft angle in a normal shot is much flatter, and because we want to create rotation back and through, we want more power. But in chipping, look, we don't need power. So we can take advantage of that fact, and how we take advantage of that is by getting you to get the shaft angle far more vertical. What does this do? If the shaft angle is more vertical as opposed to shallow, we can get that club working straight back and straight through on a more pendulum style action, and therefore it's far more accurate. So that's the very first thing I want you to do, is start to get the club in a more vertical position. The next thing I want you to do is stand a little bit taller, and when you let your arms hang, they're naturally going to hang. They'll probably be, because you'll be a lot closer to it now, they'll probably hang naturally a lot lower down the grip. So that's the very first thing I want you to do, is vertical shaft angle and stand a little bit taller. We're then going to point our toes slightly in front of the ball, okay, and we're going to lower our left shoulder. I'll show you this from this angle. So from here, ball central, toes pointing in front of the golf ball, sternum here directly in line with the ball, and I'm going to stand nice and tall, and I'm going to lower my left shoulder. Why would I lower my left shoulder? This is something that a lot of people miss. They get all the other bits right, but they forget this bit. If your left shoulder, which I see a lot of golfers, is way too high, then all you're going to do through impact is start to hit up too much on the shot. What leveling the shoulders do, which you might feel it actually is the left shoulder being lower than the right, it won't be, but it might feel like it. By leveling them off, it helps you to create a more descending blow on the ball, and that's what we want. We want the club just dropping where the ball is bruising the ground, and if the shoulder's up, it won't do that. So let's summarize this. So we've got a vertical shaft angle, toes are pointing in front of the golf ball, sternum is directly over the ball, and all I'm going to do here from this position here is make a very simple, it feels like a pendulum action, straight back, straight through, and pitch it up to the hole. Not bad. Okay, so it is as simple as that with setup, nothing more complicated. We want to take advantage of the fact that we're not having to get power, we get ourselves in a much more vertical position at the start. The second tip is about momentum and how you want to swing through the shot. Too many golfers, and it kind of is not your fault, it's probably the nature of our sport. We hit a stationary ball, and our bodies therefore end up staying way too stationary. What we end up doing is we tend to be a bit fixed like this, and whoops, and we tend to chip like this. So everything's very, very still here. Now what that does when your body's still is it gets your wrists being a bit too proactive. They tend to have to do most of the work because nothing else is working. And watch this, if your wrists are too proactive and they're doing too much of the work here, what you'll tend to do is you'll look how unstable this club is. It's wafting around all over the place, and look at the face, it's moving around all over the place, right? So it's very hard to make consistent contact. What we really want in golf, we want that club to be the head itself to be much more stable. We want it to be swinging backwards and forwards much more like this as opposed to like this. So how do we do that? The first thing to realize, look, it is the nature of our sport. We do hit a stationary ball. It does get people staying too still. So I want you now to allow your arms and your shoulders to consistently move, right? Now, and then the wrists will be far more reactive. We want the wrist to be reactive as opposed to proactive. What do I mean by that? Here, watch this. This is the wrist being proactive, and now watch, as I swing my arms and my shoulders, this is my wrist being reactive. They're literally reacting to the momentum I'm doing with my shoulders, and because of that, look, they're not flicking so much. But if I was to stop now, look at that, the wrists are going to flick through. Why? Because my body hasn't gone through, right? So I want my shoulders and my arms to be initiating this motion going backwards and forwards. So that's the second tip, is to keep momentum. it's natural. If I asked you to throw a ball, you wouldn't throw it like this. There would be a natural, if I was going to toss that ball over there, look, my body's naturally moves, and I kind of want you to do that when you're chipping. Just allow that natural movement. Having said that, on this tip number 2, here's one of the problems why I find a lot of golfers don't do it. So, if you've been struggling with chipping, then the chances are you've been struggling with distance control and you've been concerned about how far to hit it, okay? Now, what I would say, if you've been struggling with your chipping, the first thing to focus on isn't distance control at all, it's actually your strike. Get the strike of your chip shots first before you get distance control, and here's the reason why. It's very easy for me to stand here as a coach and tell you to get those arms swinging, but the problem is, when you've got a short shot, this is what will tend to happen. You'll tend to go, oh, I don't want to hit it too hard, and you'll stop, right? And you'll kind of freeze, and that's what causes a few of the problems, right? We stop because we're nervous about how far it's going to go, we're concerned that it's going to go too far, etc. So with that in mind, don't worry about distance control initially. Get the strike first, backwards and forwards. So even if, let's say for instance, I hit this shot here and I'm swinging and I hit it and I think that's much better, but it goes too far. The strike was perfect, the accuracy is perfect. All I'll then do, once I've built the confidence up in the strike, I will simply allow my shoulders and my arms to swing that little bit less, all right? Now from this position, what that looks like is this. I'm going to allow my arms and the club to swing a little bit less, but they're still flowing, and therefore the ball goes a little bit less. So that's the second major tip that I want you to focus on. So from here you can see what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the natural flow now of the club going through here, and look at my body, it's naturally flowing through. There isn't a stillness here, rock solidness in my legs, there's a flow through the shot. Okay, so I'm allowing my body naturally now to flow through. It's like a miniature version of the swing. What we're not doing is staying dead still and looking like this. That's a nightmare for chipping. I see it so often, and it really stilts your ability to strike them consistently. So now that was the second tip. Now the third tip we want to be looking at here is another factor with the actual rhythm of the swing itself. So now you've got the flow of the body flowing through, you're allowing this to go through. The next thing is the actual speed and the rhythm. Too many golfers, when they're chipping, they are rushing or slowing down their action. What I want you to do is start to practice getting a feel for a rhythm. And notice this, it's kind of non-stop. You may even see my head following through. I'm just allowing, I'm getting a feel for rhythm. Go to the golf ball then and start to play around, trying to repeat that rhythm. There's no stopping, there's no speeding up, there's no slowing down. There's just a simple, consistent rhythm through the shot. So in summary, what 3 things did we focus on? The first thing we focused on was this setup, right? And we want to take advantage of the fact that we don't need power with chipping, right? So we want to have more of a pendulum action. Pendulum creates more accuracy. So get that shaft angle nice and vertical at the start. That's the first thing. Stand a bit taller as well. That helps the pendulum style action. Point your toes just a little bit ahead of the golf ball, nice and tall. And we also said, try to lower the left shoulder a little bit. What does that do? It helps you to strike more down on the shot. So that's really the setup in a nutshell. The arms are just naturally hanging. The second thing we wanted to focus on was we want to try to create a naturally flowing motion through the chip shot. Too many golfers, when they're trying to chip, they're trying to focus so much on trying to get the strike of the shot that what they're doing is they're staying too static. It's kind of the nature of our sport, unfortunately. We tend to stay too still over the golf ball, where as opposed to creating this natural flow through the hitting area. So I want you to practice that. I want you to allow, okay, the arms to continue to keep flowing through the shot. The wrists themselves are more reactive, right? So as opposed to proactive. We don't want the wrists, in a sense, when you're coming to be doing this, that's proactive wrists. We want the wrists to be reactive. So they're reacting to the flow of the body. So you'll see my wrist softening, but that's only because I'm flowing through the shot. I'm not doing this on purpose. They're not proactive, they're more reactive to the flow of the body. So that's keeping that kind of flow all the way back and all the way through. It'll stop you jabbing at it. The third thing, which is kind of linked to this, is I see this a lot, is rhythm. Because a lot of people are nervous about how hard to hit the shot, they're concerned about distance control and what have you, they tend to be a lot of kind of jabbing, and there's variations basically in the speed that they swing. Sometimes it's very slow, sometimes they speed up. We want to create a very constant rhythm, a nice flow through the shot, so no sudden hit or slow down. And that will really improve your distance control and clearly the quality of the strike. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you know anyone else who might be struggling with their chipping, please share it. It really, really helps. And of course, if you're enjoying the content and you'd like to receive it in your inbox every week, then don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell. And if you've got any questions, head over to my Instagram and Twitter channels and ask them there. Or alternatively, you can leave a comment in the comments box below and I'll do my best to answer them over the next week. And until next week, have a great golfing week.